All right, should I focus more on profit, revenue, or market share at this stage in my business after you've started a business? Well, what we're going to talk about here is prioritizing competing business goals, because you're going to have many. And ultimately, different business goals feel like they are more important than others. But we're going to talk about some of these, and we're going to talk about this current stage of growth and your vision. Because if you balance these out accordingly, then everything becomes a smooth running system. But when they're out of balance, what ends up happening is it becomes a flashlight in a corner situation in a dark room. You're gonna shine a flashlight on something, that's gonna be your focus, and everything else gets neglected. So ultimately, we're gonna talk about revenue. Let's talk about that for a second. Revenue equals total sales. Revenue's great, but revenue is vanity. Profit ultimately is sanity. And that's the next one, is what you keep after expenses. And I know you probably know this. If not, there you go. But ultimately, don't get blinded by the revenue, because ultimately you can fall into the trap of, hey, the business is doing well, revenues are exploding. But I made an analogy in a situation about this a couple videos ago that I said, let's say you have a $100 product, right? But ultimately everything to deliver that product to the customer costs, and that's including the product costs, the time, the effort, your staff, your systems, everything else that's calculated into it. It costs $99 to get that product into the customer's hand. Well, you're making $1 for every product. So if you sell 10 of those, well, guess what? You think you're running and gunning and you're making thousands, but you're not. You're really making a lot less than you think you are. So don't just focus on the revenue. You need to focus on profit. You need to focus on margins, because your margins are going to tell you where you're at with the profit, whether it's a specific product, whether it's a specific, your overall business. What I personally like doing is having a glance at our different product lines and say, okay, these product lines, we have these margins on these product lines. How many sales are we doing? What's the revenue with each product line? Are these good? Should we keep them? Should we kill them? Are we putting time, effort, and resources on these product lines that we don't need in certain businesses? If so, maybe we kill them off. If it costs more to produce a certain product line than we are making in sales, then there's a problem there. It shouldn't even be happening in the first place, but things change, right? Things can go up in manufacturing, shipping can go up, importing can go up. There's a lot of things on tariffs right now. Tariffs, call them what you want, tomato, right? But at the end of the day, this is what you should be focused on, is the profit itself. Is the business profitable? How much profit are you taking home? Is really what matters. And so we have revenue, which is total sales. We have profit, what you keep after expenses. And then there's something that's called EBITDA, right? So EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. And it excludes taxes, amortization, and interest. And EBITDA is not the same as revenue, right? Because revenue is your total amount of money that's coming in, and EBITDA is a measure of profit, in a sense, in a lackadaisical term. So this is something that you should understand as well. Now, this is, a higher strategy in bigger businesses, but it's good to know this now, because your business, you can't just look at the revenue on this. If you just look at the revenue, there's going to be a problem, and you're going to be going into things blindly, right? Market share is something else that you need to be looking at. Now, market share is the percent of the market that you dominate. There's methods for this, there's softwares for this, there's other things for this. We're not going to get too much into that in this video, because we can make an entire other video on this alone. However, you need to understand your market share. And this is your specific customers, your products, what you're doing in the market, and there is a market share. And when you get to mass market sophistication, you're basically maxing out your market share. You're gonna have to start going into other markets, other products, other systems, other markets, certain, like maybe the market is United States. Maybe you need to go into Canada. Maybe you need to go into Mexico, right? There's other markets there, but there's other markets of people as well that you can go into, that you can put your products in as well. That maybe it's a different type of product, and I talked about this early on. Maybe you've designed a product that you have going to a certain market in the United States, but a different market, a different industry, let's say, they decide to pick up this product and they're able to use it as well. Well, this is a new market. You can shift and start going into that market as well. So these are things that you can look at here and understand a little bit more. Now, in the early stages, prioritize profitability to survive. You need profit. If you can't prioritize profit, then you're not going to succeed in business. And in growth stages, you need to have strategic revenue growth, even if it's a lower margin. because that could make sense, right? Because you need to have good revenue coming in, the revenue and the good margins. Good revenue, good margins mean good profit, right? They're all affecting each other. You need to make sure that you have revenue coming in and that you're building systems. Systems will ensure revenue comes in. Your sales system, your lead system, your fulfillment system, your shipping system, all of these systems work together to help make sure that the revenue keeps coming in on certain product lines and the business overall, right? So long-term, healthy businesses balance profit and growth. They're focused on profit, but they're focused on growth as well, and they're not growing too fast. You can actually grow too fast where it stunts some of your profit, and ultimately you have a problem, right? Now you're focused on the growth, your profits start suffering, your revenue starts suffering. Don't get trapped in that. Google some of these, GPT some of these, look up different scenarios to avoid, and we'll have some resources that also guide you in a direction as well, and they can help out with some of the information that we're talking about here. So ultimately, your market share is going to matter more in high competitive industries, but chasing it blindly can destroy profitability. Your market share in high competitive industries is really, really important. Why? Because the more market share you have, the more customers are knowing about your business, coming into your business, utilizing and buying your products, and you are involved in that market. I'm trying to put this in a very simplistic form. You are involved in that market by a certain percent of the entire market availability that's out there. And if you have three competitors in your market space, let's say that entire market share is going to be divided by you three. Well, a fourth one comes in, now there's a fourth one that comes in. A fifth one comes in, now there's a fifth one. You have to understand, if you have multiple companies in that space, who's getting what market share and what those numbers look like. Are you dominating the market on the back end? And you understand, hey, I get the most market share, but we have this new competitor coming in, and now I need to start another brand that ultimately is going to price war with this competitor or take more of the market share from them. These are all options. These are higher level strategies, and I've been involved in some of these and done some of them myself. So these are things that you could have on the table to consider in the future. And the strategy evolves, your focus needs to evolve. So as the strategy evolves, focus needs to evolve as well, because what you're focusing on today, you may need to shift this tomorrow, right? You may be shifting on revenue today, ideally today, meaning this month, you're focused on revenue, but next month something happens. You know, tariffs change, a shipping changes, something else changes, your profitability starts suffering. Now you have to focus on something different. Make sure it's a juggling act. Make sure you keep all the balls in the air at the same time, because ultimately revenue's vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. I'm going to leave you with that. I say that over and over again, but it's so very true. So on the next one, we're going to be talking about how do I prepare my business for scaling nationally or globally. This is a great one. You're going to not want to miss it. Talk to you.